The stars were silent, cold, and endless, stretching across the black sea of space. Among them drifted a single ship, scarred and broken from battle, its lights dim, its hull torn. Inside, a man sat alone, his hands trembling as he stared at the empty chair beside him. His name was Captain Daniel Hayes, a human soldier who had fought in wars across the galaxy. For years he had survived dangers that crushed stronger men, yet nothing had wounded him as deeply as this. The chair belonged to Kayla, his alien partner, a warrior of the Jirani race, tall and fierce, with eyes that glowed like silver fire. She had been more than a comrade, more than a friend. She was the one who had saved his life countless times, and now she was gone. Daniel replayed the moment over and over. The battlefield had been chaos, laser fire cutting through the sky, explosions tearing the ground apart. The enemy had laid a trap, and Kayla had seen it before he did. She pushed him out of the blast zone, throwing her body between him and death. The explosion consumed her, fire and light swallowing her whole. When the smoke cleared, all he found was silence. He remembered shouting her name, his voice breaking inside his helmet. But there had been no answer. Kayla, the warrior who never feared anything, was gone, and Daniel was left alive. Cursed with her absence, days passed and the war ended. But peace brought him no comfort. The galaxy moved on, soldiers returned home. But Daniel could not escape the shadow of loss. At night he dreamed of her voice, the calm tone she always used to balance his anger. He dreamed of her hand pulling him to safety, her eyes narrowing in determination. And then he woke alone with silence pressing against him. Yet grief was not the only thing left behind one evening. As he searched through the wreckage of their last mission, Daniel found something strange in the remains of Kayla's armor. Hidden deep within the chest plate there was a small crystal shard. Glowing faintly, it pulsed with light, almost like it was alive. Daniel frowned, remembering her words before the mission. "If anything happens, do not let them find it," she had said. But she never explained what it was. He held the shard in his palm, feeling a strange warmth spreading into his skin. It was not just a piece of crystal, it carried energy, something ancient, something forbidden. The more he stared, the more he felt like Kayla was still trying to speak to him. Guiding him even from the grave, Daniel knew he should turn it over to the military. But something inside whispered against it. Kayla had trusted him more than anyone else. If she had hidden this shard, then it must be important. And if she had died protecting it, then it was dangerous. He swore to keep it safe, even if it meant going against orders. But secrets never stay buried for long. The next day, his ship received a transmission. Scrambled and broken, but carrying Kayla's voice, Daniel froze, his chest tightening as he heard the familiar sound. Her words were faint, filled with static, but clear enough to chill his blood. "If you are hearing this, Daniel, it means I am gone. They will come for you. Do not trust anyone. Follow the coordinates I left. Find the truth." His hands shook as the message ended. She had known she would die. She had planned for it, and now, even in death, she was leading him somewhere, into danger, into secrets, into a storm he did not yet understand. Daniel opened the coordinates, and his heart sank. They pointed deep into Jirani space. Kayla's homeworld, a place humans were not welcome. A place filled with enemies who hated his kind. Going there would mean walking into fire, but ignoring it would mean betraying her last wish. He sat in the cockpit staring at the star map, the glowing path stretching into hostile territory. For the first time since her death, his grief turned into something else. Resolve. If Kayla had left him a mission, he would see it through. He owed her that much. He owed her everything outside. The stars remained silent as if holding their breath. Daniel gripped the shard tighter, the light flickering between his fingers. Somewhere in the endless night, answers waited, and perhaps something more. But he could not escape the feeling that he was being watched. The war was over, yet his fight was only beginning. The journey to Jirani space was long and heavy. Daniel's ship drifted through dark lanes of the galaxy, far from human colonies, far from safety. Every passing star reminded him of Kayla, her laughter, her voice, her steady hand on the controls. Now the cockpit felt empty, the silence too loud. The only sound was the hum of the engines, but Daniel carried her shard in his pocket, glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. It gave him courage when doubt whispered in his mind, and it gave him questions that burned hotter than fire. Why did Kayla hide this shard? What secret was she protecting? And why leave him a final message with coordinates to her homeworld? Jirani space was forbidden to humans, a line not crossed without blood being spilled. Stories spread of humans who tried and never returned. The Jirani were proud and ruthless. They trusted their own, never outsiders. And now Daniel was heading straight into their heart, carrying something they might kill him for. His ship broke through the border, alarms flickering on the console. He had entered restricted territory. Soon Jirani patrols would detect him. But instead of turning away, Daniel followed Kayla's map deeper. Every mile closer made the shard glow stronger. Like it was guiding him, at last he reached a lonely moon orbiting a red star. The surface was barren, jagged rocks stretching into the horizon. But Kayla's coordinates pointed to a cave at the base of a cliff. Daniel landed his ship and stepped into the dust. The air thin and sharp. He carried the shard in one hand, his blaster in the other, inside the cave. Shadows swallowed the light. The walls were carved with strange symbols, ancient Jirani runes glowing faintly like fireflies. Daniel felt the weight of history pressing around him. Kayla had never spoken much about her people's secrets, but he sensed this place mattered. Then he heard it. Whispers echoing through the dark. Not from his imagination, not from the wind, but from voices that faded in and out. He raised his weapon, his heart racing. "Who's there?" he called, his voice bouncing off the stone. But the only answer was the echo of his own words. At the end of the cave stood a stone pedestal, and on it an old device. Daniel placed the shard inside, and suddenly the chamber came alive. The runes flared with light, the air trembled, and a figure appeared above the pedestal. It was Kayla, or rather a recording of her. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Her image flickered, her voice soft but urgent. "If you have found this, Daniel, then I am truly gone," she said, her silver eyes filled with sorrow. "I did not die by chance. I was hunted, betrayed by enemies too powerful for me alone." She paused, her gaze piercing through the years. "They will come for you now, because you carry what they fear." The recording shook, fragments breaking apart, but the message continued. "My sister knows the truth. She can finish what I started, but she will not trust you, not at first. Not ever." Daniel leaned forward, his chest tight. "Hurt, sister?" he whispered to himself. Kayla nodded in the recording. "Find her, protect her. She is in danger more than she will admit. Only together can you stop them." The light flickered one last time, then died. Silence fell over the cave again, leaving Daniel with nothing but the echo of her words. Her sister, she had a sister, and that sister carried the truth behind Kayla's death. And now Daniel was the only human in the galaxy with the knowledge. As he stepped back into the moonlight, a shadow passed across the rocks. A ship was descending, sleek and sharp, wings like blades. Jirani soldiers spilled out, weapons drawn, their eyes glowing like Kayla's but filled with hostility. Daniel's instinct screamed. They had tracked the shard, they had tracked him. "Human," one of them barked. "You should not be here. Hand over the relic." Daniel gripped the shard tighter, hiding it under his jacket. "I don't know what you're talking about," he lied. Though his voice was steady, the soldiers advanced, their weapons humming, and then, out of the shadows of the cliff, another voice cut through the air, cold and sharp. "Leave him," the voice commanded. The soldiers froze, lowering their weapons slightly. From the darkness stepped a tall figure, her armor black, her eyes silver fire, her face so much like Kayla's that Daniel's heart stopped. It was her, the sister. She looked at him with no warmth, only suspicion. "You should not have come here." "Human," she said, her voice steady and cold. "You bring danger with you, and you do not understand what you carry." Daniel stared at her. Unable to speak, the resemblance was too strong, the pain too fresh. But before he could answer, she turned away, signaling the soldiers to stand down. "Follow me if you want to live," she said. Without looking back, Daniel hesitated, torn between fear and the pull of Kayla's final message, and then he stepped forward, because in that moment he realized something. His journey was no longer about grief alone, it was about survival, about trust, and about finding the truth Kayla had died for. The night on the barren moon was colder than space itself. The wind cut like a blade, and yet Daniel felt no chill. His heart was racing too fast, his thoughts burning too bright. For before him stood the sister of Kayla, a mirror of the woman he had lost, but harder, sharper, wrapped in armor as black as midnight. Her silver eyes glowed in the darkness, not with kindness but with suspicion. Daniel followed her into the shadows of the cliff. Jirani soldiers moving aside at her command. Their gaze lingered on him, filled with hatred, yet none dared to disobey her. She walked with the confidence of someone born to command. Her movements cold and precise. At last, she stopped inside a hidden chamber. Walls carved with ancient runes that seemed to hum with power. Only then did she turn to face him. Her stare pierced into him like a blade. And when she spoke, her voice was low and steady. "You are Daniel Hayes, the human my sister trusted," she said, as if the words themselves were strange on her tongue. Daniel nodded, his throat tight. "Yes, and you must be." "Liara," she interrupted, her name echoing in the chamber like thunder. "I am Kayla's blood, her shadow, her only kin left alive, and you, human, walk in dangerous places you cannot understand." Daniel clenched his fists, fighting the ache in his chest. She saved me, she trusted me, and before she died, she told me to find you." Liara's eyes narrowed, her expression unreadable. "And did she tell you why?" Daniel hesitated, pulling the shard from his pocket, its light flickering faintly between them. "She left me this," he said, "and a message. She said you know the truth." For the first time, Liara's mask cracked, a flicker of pain flashing across her face. She stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the shard. "So it is true. She gave it to you." Her voice was softer now, but filled with sorrow. "That crystal holds the last legacy of our house, a weapon, a memory, and a curse. One that powerful enemies would kill to control." Daniel frowned. "Then who killed her? Was it them?" Liara's voice hardened again. "Yes, the High Council of my people. The ones who pretend to rule with honor. They feared what Kayla carried. Feared what she was about to uncover." Her hand trembled slightly, though she hid it quickly. "And now they know you have it. Which means they will hunt you and they will never stop." Daniel's jaw tightened, anger rising. "Then help me stop them, help me finish what she started." But Liara shook her head, her silver eyes like ice. "You do not understand. Human, this is not your fight. You are a soldier of another world. Another war. If you stay, you will die. And Kayla's sacrifice will mean nothing." Her words cut deep, yet Daniel refused to back down. "She trusted me," he said firmly. "And if she trusted me, you should too. I can't walk away, not after what happened. Not after what she gave her life for." The cave grew silent, the glow of the shard casting light across their faces, one filled with grief, the other with stubborn fire. Before Liara could answer, the chamber shook, the ground rumbling under their feet. An alarm wailed outside. Shouts echoed from the Jirani soldiers, weapons charging. Daniel spun toward the entrance, hand on his blaster. "What now?" Liara's face darkened. "They found us," she said, her voice sharp as steel. The chamber doors burst open, a hail of plasma fire cutting through the air. Masked assassins stormed in, moving with deadly precision, their armor painted black and red, symbols of the Council's secret killers. The Jirani guards fell quickly, their bodies scattering across the stone floor. Liara drew her blade, its edge glowing with crackling energy. And with a roar she charged into the fight. Daniel followed, blaster flashing as he dropped one assassin after another, the air filled with smoke and sparks, the clash of steel and the scream of energy blasts. For a moment, Daniel caught sight of Liara fighting. Her movements were fierce, elegant, a storm of speed and strength. It was like watching Kayla again. The same rhythm, the same fire, but harder, colder, fueled by rage instead of hope. They fought back to back, the assassins pressing in from all sides. Daniel ducked under a blade, blasting his attacker through the chest, while Liara's sword carved through two more with a single strike. Their eyes met briefly, and though she said nothing, Daniel saw it, the spark of recognition, the beginning of reluctant trust. But the enemy was relentless, wave after wave crashing against them. Daniel's ammo ran low, his arms aching, his breath ragged. Liara shouted, "Fall back," as she struck down another. But the assassins surrounded them, cutting off escape. The last of the Jirani soldiers fell, silence broken only by the hiss of burning walls. Then the leader of the assassins stepped forward, his mask glowing with crimson light. His voice echoed deep and cold. "The shard belongs to us. Hand it over, or both of you will die." Daniel gripped the shard tighter, his chest heaving. Liara stood beside him, blade raised, her eyes burning with fury. And in that moment, Daniel knew the truth, whether she wanted it or not. They were already bound together, fighting the same war. The assassins closed in, their weapons raised. Daniel felt his heart hammering, not with fear but with the fire of resolve. Whatever this secret was, whatever danger Kayla had left behind, he would not let it die here. And as the first assassin lunged, Daniel and Liara struck together, two warriors bound by loss, by fury. and by a secret too dangerous to ignore. The cave was burning, smoke rising from shattered stone. Bodies of assassins and soldiers scattered across the floor. Daniel's chest heaved as he lowered his blaster, his arms heavy, his ears ringing from the echoes of battle. Beside him, Liara stood tall, her blade glowing with fading energy. Her armor scratched and bloodied, yet her stance unbroken. For a moment, neither spoke, the silence between them louder than the fight itself. Finally, Liara sheathed her weapon, her silver eyes locked on him, sharp as daggers. "You fight well for a human," she said, though her tone carried more surprise than praise. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow, forcing a bitter laugh. "You don't do too badly yourself." Liara's gaze hardened again. "Do not mistake survival for victory. They will send more. They will never stop. Not until the shard is in their hands." Daniel's hand instinctively touched the crystal hidden inside his jacket. It pulsed faintly, as if it knew it was the reason for blood on the floor. He wanted answers, but Liara turned away. Striding deeper into the tunnels, reluctantly he followed, the glow of her armor his only guide through the smoke-filled dark. The tunnels led into an underground chamber, vast and ancient, its walls covered in glowing runes. In the center rose a broken monument, cracked pillars surrounding a stone dais. Liara stopped before it, her face unreadable, her voice low. "This is where it began. This is where our family's curse was born." Daniel frowned, his voice rough. "Curse, what are you talking about?" Liara's eyes lingered on the runes, sorrow flickering across her expression. "Our house once ruled among the Jirani, protectors of ancient knowledge, but power brings fear. The council destroyed us, scattered us, and when Kayla found part of our legacy, they marked her for death." Her hand clenched into a fist, trembling though she fought to steady it. "And now, because she gave the shard to you, they will kill you too." Daniel stepped closer, his voice firm. "Then we fight them together." Liara turned sharply, her eyes blazing. "You do not understand. Human, this is not your war. Kayla trusted too easily, and it killed her. If I trust you, it may kill me too." Daniel met her glare without flinching. "You think I asked for this? You think I wanted her to die? I didn't, but she chose me. She believed in me. And I won't betray that." For a long moment, their eyes locked, grief and rage colliding in the silence. Then the ground trembled again, dust falling from the ceiling. The cave groaning like a dying beast. Liara snapped her head toward the tunnel, her instincts sharp. "They've collapsed the entrance. They mean to bury us alive." Daniel cursed under his breath, gripping his blaster. "Any way out?" Liara nodded toward a dark passage, half hidden by rubble. "There, but it leads to the ruins above. And if we go, we walk into open ground." "Easy prey," Daniel smirked despite the danger. "Better than suffocating here." Together they pushed through the passage, the air growing colder, the glow of the runes fading. At last they emerged into night under a sky of red stars, the ruins of an ancient Jirani temple stretching around them, broken statues and shattered walls bathed in pale light. For a moment Daniel caught his breath, gazing at the haunting beauty, but Liara's eyes were scanning the horizon, sharp and restless. "They will come again," she said, her voice flat. "And next time they will not underestimate you." Daniel adjusted the strap of his blaster, his tone grim. "Then let them try." Liara studied him, her jaw tight, torn between anger and something else, something unspoken. She wanted to dismiss him, to call him reckless, yet she had seen him fight, seen him bleed without fear, and it reminded her too much of Kayla. Finally she spoke, softer now, though her words carried weight. "My sister, she believed in things I could not. She believed unity was possible, that humans and Jirani could stand together. I called her a dreamer, but now looking at you, I begin to wonder if she was right." Daniel's voice dropped, raw with emotion. "She was right. I saw it in her every day, and I'll prove it to you. If you let me." Before Liara could answer, the shard in Daniel's pocket flared suddenly, blinding light spilling into the ruins. The runes on the broken walls shimmered to life, symbols glowing as if awakened by the shard's presence. A holographic figure appeared before them, Kayla again, her image fractured but alive with urgency. Her voice echoed across the temple. "If you see this, it means the council has moved faster than I feared. The traitor is among us, closer than we think. Trust no one." Daniel's breath caught, his heart pounding. "She knew," he whispered. Liara's face turned pale, her fists tightening. "A traitor in our blood, in my house." The message flickered and died, leaving the ruins in silence again. Daniel turned to Liara, his voice hard. Now you see. This isn't just your fight, it's mine too. Liara's eyes burned with conflict. Her trust still a wall of steel, but for the first time it cracked. Perhaps, she admitted quietly. But if we walk this path, human, there is no turning back. Daniel held her gaze, his jaw set. I already turned back once. When Kayla died, I won't do it again. The night wind howled through the ruins. Carrying the scent of ash and the promise of war, two warriors stood side by side, bound not by trust, not yet, but by necessity. And as the stars watched from above, their uneasy alliance began, fragile as glass, yet strong enough to shake the fate of worlds. The ruins were quiet, but the silence felt wrong. Like the world itself was holding its breath. Daniel and Liara stood side by side, the faint glow of the shard flickering between them. Neither spoke for a long moment. The memory of Kayla's warning still hanging in the air. A traitor, she had said, someone close, someone trusted. Liara's silver eyes narrowed, her jaw clenched tight. My blood is not weak, she muttered, almost to herself. But if one of them betrayed Kayla, then I will find them and I will end them. Daniel watched her carefully, the pain in her voice sharper than her blade. He wanted to offer comfort, but he knew better. Liara did not want comfort, she wanted answers, she wanted justice. They left the ruins at dawn, the red sun rising over jagged cliffs, their ship hidden in the shadow of the mountains. The journey through Jirani space was tense, patrols circling the skies, scanners sweeping every sector. Daniel sat in the co-pilot seat, watching Liara guide the ship through hidden paths only she seemed to know. Her movements were smooth, practiced, but her silence spoke louder than words. Finally, she broke it, her voice low. There is one I must speak to. An elder of my house, he knew Kayla well. He may know who betrayed her. Daniel nodded, though unease crawled in his chest. And you trust him? Liara's lips pressed thin. I used to. They landed on a moon cloaked in forests of black trees, their branches twisting toward the sky like claws. At the heart of the wood stood a stone citadel, its spires cutting through the mist. Guards in silver armor lowered their weapons when they saw Liara, bowing their heads with respect. Daniel felt their eyes on him, sharp with suspicion, but they did not speak. Inside, the air was heavy with incense, torches burning with blue fire along the walls. An old Jirani elder waited on a throne of stone, his skin pale, his eyes dim but still sharp. Liara, he rasped, his voice like cracked stone. The last daughter of our line and the human Kayla died to protect. Daniel stiffened at his words, but Liara stepped forward, bowing her head. Elder Varen, she said, my sister is gone, but she left warnings. She spoke of a traitor, someone close, someone who betrayed our house. Tell me what you know. The elder's gaze drifted to Daniel, his face unreadable. And you bring a human into this sacred hall. Kayla's death has blinded you, child. Do you not see the danger of trusting outsiders? Liara's eyes flashed. Kayla trusted him, and so will I. Until he proves unworthy. The elder studied Daniel for a long moment before sighing. The council's hand is everywhere, even in our bloodline. Kayla was close to discovering the truth, but she was silenced. If you wish to survive, give me the shard, and I will protect it from those who seek it. Daniel's instincts flared, a chill crawling down his spine. His hand slipped toward his jacket where the shard rested, but he did not pull it out. Something in the elder's tone was wrong. Too eager, too certain. He glanced at Liara, but she was staring at the elder with confusion, torn between duty and doubt. Before Daniel could speak, the ground shook, the walls shuddering as an explosion ripped through the citadel gates. Assassins stormed inside, blades and plasma rifles cutting through the guards with merciless speed. The elder did not flinch, his voice rising above the chaos. Protect me. The shard must not fall into their hands. Daniel fired his blaster, dropping 2 assassins, but his mind raced. How did they find the citadel so quickly? How were they always one step ahead? The answer struck him like a blade. Someone inside was feeding them information. His gaze snapped to the elder, who remained calm even as death swarmed around him. Liara fought fiercely, her blade glowing as she carved through attackers. But when Daniel shouted over the battle, his words froze her mid-strike. It's him, Liara, it's the elder, he's the traitor. Liara's eyes widened, her breath caught. No, that cannot. The elder's voice boomed. Kill the human, leave the girl alive. She will serve. The assassins shifted, focusing their fire on Daniel, forcing him back against the shattered wall. Liara's heart twisted, betrayal cutting deeper than any wound. The elder she once trusted, the voice of her family's wisdom, had sold them all. Rage ignited in her chest. Her silver eyes blazing, with a roar, she turned her blade on the assassins, cutting them down with renewed fury. Daniel blasted through the rest, smoke filling the hall. The stench of blood thick in the air. When the last body fell, only the elder remained. His pale face twisted with hatred. "You were never strong enough," he spat at Liara. "Kayla was a fool, and you are weaker still. Handing our secrets to a human, the council will grind you both to dust." Liara's blade trembled in her hand, her breath ragged, her heart torn between grief and rage. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady and cold. "You betrayed her. You betrayed Kayla, and you'll answer for it." But before Liara could strike, the elder activated a hidden device, a flash of light engulfing the hall. When the smoke cleared, he was gone, vanished into the shadows, leaving only destruction behind. Liara dropped to one knee, her sword clattering against the floor. Her breath breaking, Daniel knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "I know it hurts," he said quietly. "But Kayla was right, there's a traitor. And now we know who." Liara lifted her head, her eyes burning with fury and sorrow. "Yes," she whispered, "and I will not rest until I see him fall." The hall was silent once more, but the silence was different now. It was not heavy with doubt, but sharp with purpose. Daniel and Liara stood together in the ruins of betrayal. Their uneasy alliance forged stronger in fire. The council's shadow grew longer, the danger closer, but so too did their resolve. The war was no longer about survival. It was about vengeance. The citadel burned behind them, flames tearing through stone walls. The night sky painted red by fire. Daniel and Liara fled into the forest of black trees, shadows twisting around them as the wind carried the smell of ash. Neither spoke, their breaths ragged, their steps heavy, their thoughts haunted by betrayal. The elder, the one Liara trusted, had sold them to the council, and now he was free, carrying their secrets into the dark. They reached a clearing where the ship waited, half hidden by mist, its metal surface glowing faintly under the twin moons. Daniel checked the skies, scanning for enemy signals. His blaster ready, Liara stood still, her silver eyes fixed on the flames behind them. Her jaw clenched, her grief buried under layers of rage. At last she spoke, her voice low and bitter. "I was blind, I trusted him. And because of that, Kayla died. Because of that. They almost took you too," Daniel shook his head, his tone firm. "No, Kayla died because she stood against them, because she carried something they feared. This isn't your fault, Liara, the blame is theirs, and now we know who they are." Liara looked at him sharply, her anger cracking for just a moment. "You speak as though you are part of this war, but you are human. Why do you still stay?" Daniel's eyes hardened, his hand pressing against the shard hidden in his jacket. "Because Kayla asked me to. Because she believed in something greater. And because walking away would mean her death was for nothing." Liara studied him in silence, searching his face for weakness, but she found only resolve. At last she nodded, a small gesture, but it was more trust than she had given him before. "We must move quickly," she said. "The elder will return to the council. He will tell them everything, and once he does, they will unleash their full strength against us." The ship lifted into the skies, breaking through clouds and into the stars. Daniel sat in the co-pilot seat, staring at the map that glowed before them. Liara tapped a series of coordinates, her voice steady. "There is one place we must go. A prison hidden on the edge of the Nabora Rift. My informants say the council keeps prisoners there. Rebels, warriors, and those who know too much. If the elder has ties to the council's secret plans, the truth may be locked inside those cells." Daniel frowned, his gut twisting. "A prison, that's not a mission. That's suicide." Liara's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. "Then we should not fail." The journey through the rift was long, storms of energy flashing outside the ship, waves of blue lightning crackling across the void. Daniel gripped the armrest, his heart racing. But Liara's hands never wavered on the controls, guiding them through chaos with deadly calm. When at last the prison came into view, it was a dark fortress clinging to an asteroid, its towers lit by searchlights, its walls bristling with weapons. It looked less like a prison and more like a tomb. They landed in silence, cloaked by the rift's storms, slipping through shadows until they reached the lower gates. Daniel cut through security locks while Liara kept watch, her blade ready, her silver eyes scanning every corner. When the gates opened, they moved inside, the corridors cold and metallic, the air filled with the hum of generators and the faint cries of prisoners echoing from the cells. "Which one?" Daniel whispered. Liara pressed a device to the wall, her eyes narrowing as readings flashed across the screen. "There," she said, pointing toward the deepest wing. "The ones they fear most are always kept furthest from the light." They moved quickly, cutting down guards with silent strikes. Daniel's blaster dropping enemies before alarms could sound, Liara's blade flashing in the dark like silver lightning. At last, they reached the final cell, a heavy door sealed with layers of energy locks. Daniel hacked the system, sweat dripping down his face, each second stretching into eternity. Finally, the locks disengaged, and the door slid open with a hiss. Inside sat a prisoner, chained and broken, his skin scarred, his eyes hollow but burning with defiance. When he lifted his head, Liara froze, her breath catching. "Commander Rail," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel looked between them, confused. "Who is he?" Liara's voice shook. Though her stance was steady, he was Kayla's mentor, the one who taught her everything. The council declared him dead years ago, but they locked him here instead. Rail's voice was hoarse, but strong enough to cut through the silence. "So Kayla is gone," he said, his eyes falling on Daniel. "And now you carry what she died to protect." Daniel stiffened, the shard glowing faintly as if answering Rail's words. "You know what this is?" Daniel asked, his tone sharp. Rail nodded slowly. "Yes, it is the key, the last piece of an ancient weapon. A weapon the council fears. A weapon they would kill entire worlds to keep hidden." Liara's eyes widened, her jaw tightening. "Kayla never told me. She only said it was important." Rail's gaze softened for just a moment. "She wanted to protect you, child, but now there is no choice. The key must be used, or the council will rise unchallenged." Before Daniel could reply, alarms blared through the prison, red lights flashing, doors slamming shut. The council had found them, soldiers storming the corridors, their weapons blazing. Rail staggered to his feet, chains clattering to the floor, his eyes burning with fire. "Go!" he growled. "Finish what Kayla started. I will hold them as long as I can." Daniel shook his head. "No, we came to rescue you." But Rail pushed him back, his voice sharp. "You will waste her sacrifice if you waste time here. Take Liara, take the key and run." Liara's eyes filled with pain, her hand reaching toward the man who had raised her sister, but Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the exit. The last thing they heard was Rail's roar as he charged into the storm of soldiers, his blade flashing one last time. Then the blast doors sealed shut, cutting off his light. Daniel and Liara ran through the chaos, the shard pulsing brighter with every step. The prison walls shook, alarms screaming, soldiers flooding every corridor, but together they cut through the storm. At last they reached the ship, launching into the void as the fortress behind them erupted into fire. As the rift storm swallowed them once more, Daniel sat breathless in the cockpit, his hand gripping the shard, his mind racing. The council's secret was clear now, a weapon powerful enough to change the galaxy, hidden in the key he carried. And though Liara's grief was heavy, her voice was steady when she spoke. "They killed Kayla to keep this truth buried, but now we will finish her fight, human, and this time, they will not win." Daniel nodded, his eyes burning with resolve. The war had changed, the mission had grown, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The storms of the Nabora rift faded behind them, and the stars stretched wide and endless once more. Daniel sat in the cockpit, the shard glowing bright in his hand, its pulse steady and alive as though it carried Kayla's spirit within. Beside him, Liara was silent, her silver eyes fixed on the path ahead, her face carved from steel. But beneath the mask, Daniel saw her grief. Sharp and unyielding, they had lost Kayla. They had lost Commander Rail, but now they carried the one thing the council feared most, the key. The council's stronghold was not a city, not a base, but a fortress carved into a dead world, a sphere of black stone orbiting a dying sun. Its towers pierced the sky, its walls bristled with cannons, and a fleet of warships circled like vultures. Daniel's throat tightened as he stared at it. "That's suicide," he muttered. Liara's voice was calm but cold. "Perhaps, but it is the only way. If we run, they will hunt us until every star burns out. If we strike now, we end their grip on the galaxy." The shard pulsed brighter, As if agreeing, Daniel felt the weight of Kayla's voice in his memory. Find her, protect her, finish what we started, he nodded, gripping the controls. Then we go, one last fight. They slipped through the fleet using cloaking fields, skimming the shadows of larger ships until they broke into the atmosphere of the fortress world. The ship rattled as anti-air fire screamed past, explosions lighting the sky, but Liara's hands never wavered on the controls. Daniel manned the guns, blasting enemy fighters from the skies, his heart racing with every near miss. Finally, they crashed onto the fortress plains, smoke rising from the hull, alarms wailing, but alive. The gates of the fortress loomed ahead, guarded by ranks of soldiers clad in crimson armor, the elite of the council, their blades and rifles gleaming in the blood-red light. Daniel and Liara stepped out into the storm side by side, their weapons drawn. For a moment silence held, then the enemy surged forward, and the ground shook with the fury of war. Daniel fired into the crowd, his blaster flashing bright. Dropping soldier after soldier, Liara was a storm of steel, her blade glowing as it cut through enemies like fire through paper, her movements fierce, elegant, relentless. They fought as one, back to back, every strike and shot flowing like a rhythm. As though Kayla herself fought through them, the shard pulsed with each heartbeat, its light growing stronger with every life taken, until the very walls of the fortress began to hum. At last they broke through the gates, blood and fire in their wake, and there, in the heart of the fortress, stood the warlord. His armor was black as night, his eyes burning with crimson fire. His voice deep and cruel. "You carry the key," he said, his tone echoing across the chamber. "And for that you will suffer. Your kind does not belong here, human, and you, Liara, are nothing but the last ember of a dead house." Liara's silver eyes narrowed, her blade trembling with fury. "You killed my sister, you destroyed my bloodline, and today, you fall." Daniel gripped the shard tighter, his voice steady. "We're not running anymore." The warlord raised his weapon, a massive blade forged from dark energy, and the final battle began. He struck with the force of thunder, each blow shaking the chamber, forcing Daniel and Liara back. Daniel fired shot after shot, but the warlord's armor absorbed the blasts like rain. Liara clashed blade against blade, sparks flying, her strength meeting his rage, but each strike pushed her closer to the edge. The shard pulsed wildly in Daniel's hand, light spilling across the floor. He realized Kayla's final message had not just been about survival. It had been about this moment. The key was not a weapon to be wielded by one, but a bond to be shared. He shouted to Liara, "Take my hand." She hesitated, her blade locked against the warlord's strike, her eyes flashing with confusion and doubt. "Trust me," Daniel cried, his voice raw. "Kayla trusted me. Now you must," for a heartbeat. The world froze, then Liara reached out. Gripping his hand, the shard exploded with light. Brighter than 1,000 suns, energy surged through them both, binding human and Jirani, grief and resolve, love and fury all into one. Their weapons glowed, their strikes doubled in strength, their movements one rhythm, one heartbeat. The warlord roared, but his power crumbled beneath theirs, his blade shattering as Liara's sword pierced through his chest. With a final scream, the warlord fell, his armor breaking, his fire dying. The fortress shook, the council's armies scattering as their leader's death echoed across the world. The shard dimmed, its purpose fulfilled, its light fading as though Kayla's spirit had finally found peace. Daniel dropped to his knees, breathless, his chest burning. Liara stood over the fallen warlord, her blade dripping, her body trembling, her silver eyes filled with tears she could no longer hide. Slowly she turned to Daniel, her voice breaking. "She was right. My sister was right about you, human. She trusted you because you were worthy. And now I see it too." Daniel met her gaze, his voice rough but steady. "She gave her life for something greater. And so did Rael. We can't let that end here. We finish this together." Liara nodded, for the first time her expression softening, her guard falling. "You are no longer outsider. Daniel Hayes, you are family, bound by blood and battle." The fortress crumbled around them, flames rising into the dark sky, but they walked out together, their steps steady, their bond unbroken.
The galaxy had changed, the council's shadow broken, and though grief still weighed on them, hope rose from the ashes. Kayla was gone, but her legacy lived on, not in shards or weapons, but in the bond between a human and a Zirani, forged by loss, tested by fire, and sealed in trust. As the stars stretched above them, Daniel and Liara stood side by side, no longer strangers, no longer enemies, but allies, partners, and something more. The war was over, but their story had just begun.